Think about it for a moment. Imagine that you wake up in a place completely covered in darkness. There are no windows. There are no doors. There is no sound. No reference point of any kind. You don't know where you are. You don't know if you are standing still or if you are moving. You don't know whether you are on a planet, inside a ship, or lost somewhere in an unknown corner of the universe. There is nothing to touch, nothing to measure, nothing to observe. Only absolute darkness. Now I ask you a simple, yet deeply disturbing question. How much time has passed since you woke up? It seems like a trivial question, but think carefully. Without a clock, without the movement of the sun, without the rotation of the earth, without any change around you, how could you possibly know? Maybe you would try to count your heartbeats. Maybe you would try to measure time through your breathing or blinking. Maybe you would try to create a rhythm in your mind. But the moment you fall asleep or lose count for even a second, everything resets, and the same question echoes in the void again. How much time has actually passed? The truth is that time, as we perceive it, has never been something we could directly see. We have never seen time itself. We have never touched it. We have never felt its texture or its shape. All we ever do is observe things that repeat themselves. What we call time is nothing more than a way of counting patterns in nature. A year, for example, is simply the time it takes for the Earth to complete one orbit around the Sun. A day is the time it takes for the Earth to rotate once around its own axis. Hours are divisions of that movement. Months are sequences of days. Even the second, the most basic unit we use to measure time, is defined by something repeating in nature. The precise oscillation of a cesium atom dot, in other words. What we call time is nothing more than counting the oscillations of reality. Something vibrates. Something repeats. And we call that time. But here an interesting problem begins to emerge. If time depends on these repetitions, then it depends on where we are. On another planet, where a day lasts longer or shorter than on Earth, our entire perception of time would be different. In a distant solar system, where a planet completes its orbit faster, years would be shorter. Different civilizations could create entirely different calendars. What we call time, then, does not seem to be something universal. It seems to be just a convention created by the place where we live. For centuries, humanity treated time as something simple and absolute, something that existed independently, flowing identically everywhere in the universe. But in the early 20th century, this idea began to collapse. A physicist named Albert Einstein proposed something radical. He suggested that time was not absolute. Time was not universal. Time was relative. According to this view, the universe does not have only three dimensions: height, width, and depth. It has four: the three dimensions of space, and a fourth dimension, time. Space and time, according to this idea, are not separate things. They form a single structure called spacetime. And within this invisible fabric of the universe, everything is constantly moving. Even when you are sitting still in a chair, you are moving through time, 1 second per second, without pause. Without choice. But something even stranger emerges from this idea. Unlike space, where we can move forward, backward, up, or down, time seems to allow movement in only one direction, toward the future. No one has ever managed to return to the past. No one has ever managed to pause the flow of time, that it always moved forward. The question is, why? The answer may lie in one of the most fundamental laws of physics, the second law of thermodynamics. This law introduces a concept called entropy. Entropy is often described as the level of disorder in a system. In simple terms, organized systems naturally tend to become more disorganized over time. A glass can fall, and shatter into pieces across the floor, but you will never see those fragments reorganizing themselves to form the glass. Again, an egg can fall and break, but it will never reconstruct itself spontaneously. These processes have a direction. They always move from order toward disorder. This direction is what physicists call the arrow of time. Time appears to move forward because the entropy of the universe is constantly increasing. The past is a state of lower entropy. The future is a state of higher entropy. That may be the reason why we remember the past, but never the future. But here another unsettling idea appears. Some physicists have begun to question whether time truly exists as a fundamental element of the universe, or whether it might be something else entirely. Some theories suggest that time might not be a real entity at all. It might be nothing more than an emergent illusion created by the way matter and energy rearrange themselves across the cosmos. Imagine that the universe is like a massive book that has already been written. Each page represents a different moment in existence. To us, it seems as if time is passing because we are reading the book page by page. But perhaps all pages already exist simultaneously. The past, the present, and the future could all coexist within the structure of the universe. We simply experience them sequentially. If that is true, then something even stranger happens. Time would not be flowing. It would not be moving. It would not be passing. What would actually be happening is that we are moving through an already existing structure of reality. That means the universe might not be a process unfolding. It might be something complete. Whole, already fully formed, and we are simply a point of consciousness moving through it. And that brings you back to the question from the beginning. When you wake up in that dark room and try to figure out how much time has passed, perhaps the question itself is wrong. Maybe time is not passing at all. Maybe what we call time is simply the way our minds perceive change. Maybe the universe is not a machine in motion. Maybe it is closer to a thought, a structure, an immense idea within which every moment exists simultaneously. And that leads to one final question. If time is only an illusion created by change in the universe, what happens when the universe stops changing? What happens when all energy spreads evenly across the cosmos? When every star burns out? When entropy reaches its maximum? When the universe reaches what physicists call heat death? If nothing changes, there are no more events. And if there are no events, perhaps there is no time. And then a silent thought emerges. Maybe time is not what moves the universe. Maybe the universe is what creates the illusion of time. And maybe, in this very moment, you are not living the present. You are simply passing through one of the infinite pages of reality.